What's going on, guys? So in this video I wanted to share what I believe to be the most powerful build in Diablo 4. So originally the Sorcerer, everyone was saying was overpowered. After playing the Necromancer, I feel like this is the most overpowered build. It has tankiness, it has insane AoE damage, it has insane single target damage, and survivability with all your minions that surround you and take a lot of damage. So I'll just go over my gear, the skills, and then a bit of a demonstration of the rotation of skills that I use and why it's so overpowered in my opinion. So to start, the gear. So this helm here has an aspect that damages an elite enemy and it grants you a barrier absorbing up to 315 damage, and which makes this amazing, and I didn't even realize this until I started using it. It not only uses or creates a barrier for your character, for the Necro, but also for all your summons as well. So when you're fighting elites or bosses, you almost take no damage to your health by the time you kill the elite or the boss, which is amazing. In addition, you have 8 plus life, plus 8 life on kill, and with the AoE damage this build does, basically you don't ever use healing potions, honestly. Before I go through all the gear, these aren't even like the best gear. I didn't even upgrade, you can see here, but it's still ridiculously overpowered. For the armor, this gives me summoning skill damage, and in addition, when you hit a crowd controlled enemy, so for example I use a slow with Blight, there's a 36% chance that it spreads to everyone else around it. So once you hit 5-6 plus enemies at a time, there's a really good chance that it's gonna go to the nearby enemies as well. For the gloves, I just had this just in case, like if a boss hits you and you're crowd controlled and you're also injured and you're about to die. I never really get to that point, but it's just another fail safe. It grants you unstoppable, so you can easily get out of the way and then heal up and do whatever you need to do to get back to the battle. But I really haven't even needed that with this so far. The pants, life regen, which is amazing because you rarely get hit because you're so far away from the enemies. So you're always regenerating life. Again, you really don't need the potion. +1 rank to corpse explosion. And you gain 0.25% increased armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage. So it being that I use corpse explosion and blight as my main ones, it's tons of AoE damage. So that stacks up very quickly. For the boots, this one, I only have it for the Blight's defiled area when spawn pulls enemies around the area. It's almost like a vortex effect, which brings them all together, and then you could use corpse explosion, and I'll show that at the end of the video as part of the demonstration. I would prefer better skills on there, but because I don't really use bone spirit or corpse tendrils, but the aspect on this is why I use these boots. Then for the weapon, it has a lot of good things. All stats, 13 life on kill. So let me see my total life on kill. 27 life on kill, and you kill 5 plus enemies at a time. So it's like an insta heal every time. The main thing here is the skills deal up to 24% increased damage based on your available primary resource. And why this is amazing is that corpse explosion doesn't even use any resource. It doesn't use any essence. So basically it's always, all my skills are basically always dealing an extra 24% damage. And that includes Decompose, which is a good single target one against bosses. It's a damage over time, and you could do it at an extreme range. And I don't think there's no line of sight either. You could do it across walls, things like that. It's another overpowered thing about this build. Onto the amulet here. So I get 1 to all corpse skills, which is incredible, which brings my corpse explosion to 7 out of 5. So I do 500 damage to surrounding enemies. And essence cost reduction is always nice when I use blight. And this is the legendary aspect here. The skeletons gain increased damage while alive, up to 45% after 10 seconds. So they're pretty much never dead. So they're always going to be dealing 45% increased damage, which is insane when you pair that with the 20% damage boost with the Skeletal Priest. All you have to do is, there's so many corpses, you just, every 5 seconds I just press 1 and you get an extra 20% damage in addition to the 45% damage here. And over here you get 36% attack speed with this aspect, and that's for all your minions. And then some other things, life regeneration, like there's a bunch of other nice affixes on there. And then this one I recently got, so I don't actually even need to use as one of my skills, and I'll go to my skills in a second, but I just wanted to show this one. Originally I had consuming a corpse generates 3 essence, so when you use corpse explosion or use a corpse for a skeletal priest, you'll get 3 essence. But being that I recently found this one with this aspect, every time I use Blight, which slows enemies by 25%, that's a crowd control effect. So that gives me pretty much 3 essence every time I hit an enemy, and Blight uses 22. So that coupled with the +3, it's basically instant essence regeneration every time. I don't even need any more skill points in that. And then over here, more crowd control duration. I need an aspect for this, I don't have one yet, but this build is already overpowered even without that. Intelligence is what you want with this build. Again, I haven't really upgraded any of my gear, but intelligence, if I'm going to look for an affix, it's going to be more intelligence, because it's going to increase your skill damage, and the resistance to all elements helps as well. Alright, so that's the gear here. I'll go into the, well, actually the Book of Dead. This is like a specialization for Necro, where you can choose between certain skeletons, defenders, reapers, or skirmishers. I go skirmishers because it's more damage, and I could raise one more, so that's why you see down here 5 skeletal warriors and then 3 mages. Mages, I'm using Shadow, so they deal a bit more damage. And then Golem, the only one I could do right now is I use the 10% maximum life just for a little bit more survivability for my Golem, but it doesn't really matter too much. So with that, I have 1 Golem, 5 skirmishers, and 3 mages, which is pretty awesome. Now onto the skills. And I really didn't even change the skills much as I went. So you could follow this build if you want come release. So Decompose is the main one. This is especially important early on for any kind of elites, because it's good single target damage and it generates your essence per 7 per second, which is a lot. If it dies while being decomposed, which it normally does because it's a pretty quick kill, you get an extra 10 essence. And then this is one of my summoner perks. You and your minions deal 10% damage to enemies who are being decomposed. So it's stack of damage. You have your enemies attacking, your minions attacking, plus you get damage from the decompose, and then and I'll show in a little bit, Blight. It all kind of like stacks on top of each other. So that's it. I didn't put any points into anything else here. Going down the skill tree here into the core skills, the main one I use is Blight, and this slows enemies. And not only that, with the supernatural Blight, you get 15% increased damage to enemies within Blight. So I usually cast Blight and any enemies are getting damage over time from the DOT effect, plus 15%. Plus, if you use Decompose on an elite, you're basically getting 25% just from those bonuses. And then the slow really helps as well, because that's the crowd control effect that synergizes with the gear. Then my main skill here, Corpse Explosion. With my gear, I have 7 out of 5 rank, and I feel like it's really overpowered because it doesn't even cost. You get so many corpses with the tons of monsters, and it doesn't cost any essence. So basically it generates essence for you. So you could use Blight more. Increase radius and another one of those stacked damage effects. 10% increased damage to enemies that are slowed, and they're slowed through Blight. I didn't use this one because I don't really need damage over time. I just like the instant kill so I can get the corpses and kind of just spam that. And then this one, I really don't need it, but it's a little extra bonus of getting a little bit more essence if I'm summoning more skeletons or using Blight. Nothing over here. This is just from my skills, Tendrils, Bone Spirit. And I actually didn't even use an ultimate. Army of the Dead I tried, but I kill enemies so quick I don't really need it. Maybe like in the later levels after the beta, but that's the skill so far. So I went over the gear, the skills, and then I'm going to go to a dungeon and I will explain the rotation of skills I use and the main damage effects, and you can see how quickly everyone dies and the survivability with the barrier I mentioned, which is crazy because the only time you might even like lose health is when you're fighting elites, and then when you do, you get a barrier for you and your minions, which is overpowered. I didn't even socket any of these with gems or upgrade the stats through enchanting, or even upgrade the gear. So that's everything from this side, and I'll go over a little bit of a demonstration as I kill monsters. So the first thing I do when I come across a group of monsters is I cast a couple Blight Bombs to slow them and the damage over time effect. And then if there's elites, I might use Decompose, but for the most part I use Blight Bomb and then I use Corpse Explosion, and then I continue to just keep chaining Corpse Explosion. And I know if there's an elite, even if there's groups, because the barrier comes up instantly. But you could see how the aspect kind of makes a vortex effect and brings them all close together with the Blight Bomb, and then I could just Corpse Explosion and just kill everything in the area. And then here you see some a boss, and this is just amazing single target damage. You have the minions going crazy on them, and then I could just use Decompose and does serious damage. So that's the build. Hopefully you liked it, and I'm excited for release. Thanks for watching.